Okay, so hello. Today is the 4th of March. Let's read a little bit about the Danish architect. So, Laurids Lauridsen de Thurah, known as Laurids de Thurah, born March 4th, 1706, and died in 1759, was a Danish architect, an architectural writer. He became the most important Danish architect of the late Baroque period. As an architectural writer and historian, he made a vital contribution to the understanding of both Denmark's architectural heritage and building construction during his day. De Thurah was a self-taught architect who learned much of what he knew by studying the inspiring buildings he saw on his travels outside Denmark between 1729 and 1731. He brought home the Baroque style, which was then popular, but was quickly losing way to Rococo. Throughout his life, he maintained a loyalty to the Baroque, even as the world around him continued to change, and he lost work assignments to others who mastered the newer, more popular styles. Well, I have the highest admiration for someone who remained loyal to his beliefs and who was also self-taught. And we know other examples of remarkable self-taught architects, don't we? So this was the man, a Dane. A Dane, just like Bjarke Ingels, but dressed differently. I wonder what these architects or him would have thought in the 18th century, wearing a t-shirt, and vice versa. Why wouldn't we imagine today an architect being dressed like this? Of course, that architect would probably look ridiculous, but you see, the things do change. Anyway, some drawings by him or renderings. I'm not even sure if this was by him, but when I typed in drawings by this architect, I came across various images. They look rather naive. It's very possible, or I don't know. Maybe it was done, this rendering, by him. Although I'm a little bit suspicious that this is not the case, because these illustrations here, are rather sweet. Anyway, maybe here we have engravings of some of his buildings. Anyway, he was, although he didn't live like today's stars, meaning he died rather young compared to how long architects live these days. Let's not forget Frank Gehry was 93 years old just a few days ago, and Alvaro Siza is also around 93, and Doshi also 93, and Kenneth Frampton 91, and Peter Eisenman 89, and there are plenty of architects. Richard Meyer also close to 90. Anyway, a mansion from 1732 to 1736, Roskilde Mansion. I like this building. If this is Baroque, it's a kind of Baroque which is very humane, I would say. It's not, but then it's a Scandinavian country. It's not, it's not Rome. It's not the Latin spirit, but it's subdued. It's reticent. Do we see something, very specific here? I don't know. I mean, it's a pleasant building, I would say. I personally like it. I would not have thought of it that it is Baroque, but maybe inside or here, in what way is it Baroque? if it is Baroque, it's in a very, restrained way. I admire the Scandinavians, the reticence. Well, not any longer. I mean, Bjarke Ingels is not so reticent, but usually the Scandinavians are reticent, although they are capable, like the Norwegians. I don't know if in architecture, but in literature, some like Henrik Ibsen, or in graphic art and painting, uh, Edvard Munch, they can be expressionistic as well. So the northern spirit is not only, reticence and equilibrium. They could also erupt in sometimes almost yes, the verb to erupt is probably correct. You know very well that Scream by Edvard Munch, well, that's not, after all, could you scream in a reticent way? No, it's not possible. But this building is not a Scream, that's for sure. It's a, it's a peaceful building. It's not crushing, it's not arrogant, it's not turbulent. It's a nice building. It behaves. Now the spires there belong to the church that is not by him. The building by him is in front, where the bicycles are and the cars in. But it's a nice picture, because you have the exaltation, if we can call it so, of the church, and then we have the terrestrial kindness of the building by this architect. A palace, Hermitage, probably Hermitage Palace, 1734, 1736. This one, yes, is more. More pointing in the direction of the Baroque. It's not a bad building, it's emphatically placed on that base. Please be kind and turn off the microphone. Thank you. Unless you want to say something. Thank you. So, another building by this Danish architect about whom I knew nothing just 2 days ago. But I discovered him, and because, please be kind and turn off the microphone. Thank you. Unless you want to say something, please. So, Danish Baroque. I hesitate to pronounce his name because I didn't yet memorize it, to my shame. It's a new addition to my knowledge about architecture, which is very imperfect, of course. Anyway, it would be interesting, perhaps, to make some kind of a comparative analysis between, let's say, Baroque manifestations in architecture, and maybe not only in architecture, in a certain country vis-a-vis other Baroque manifestations in a different country, and compare, what happened around the same time. For example, this man, when he lived and worked, Piranesi was alive. Piranesi was born in 1720. This building was built when Piranesi was entering adult age, so to speak. Now, the cultivation or the fascination with ruins, I don't know if this Danish architect would have had. Anyway, 4 pavilions for a hospital. I couldn't identify these 4 pavilions, but I'll show some pictures from the Frederick's Hospital. 1754, 1758. Again, it's not an architecture of, it's not a wow architecture. No, it's not. I regret that in this picture, I cannot see very well. We cannot see very well the building, but we see the fence on the other hand. There are interesting things here, you know, this sense of equilibrium and at the same time the distortions of baroque interventions. So I guess the four pavilions that he built for these hospitals are four buildings that together form this hospital. I don't know if there are more than four. Another building, which I don't know what it is, 1756, 1757. And yes, even if I didn't know was built by a Danish architect, looking at the picture, I would have said it must be somewhere in Denmark. And yes, it is in Denmark. If we are to describe it, what makes it distinctly Danish, I don't know very well if I can answer. I have this feeling it's, you know, a darker, taller roof, and then the whiteness of the walls, although we saw also color on. It's a domestic architecture, even in the case of palaces. It's a it has a certain domesticity. It's a sense of home, I think, and it's this balanced expression, architectural expression. I probably say banalities, but maybe analyzing more carefully, we'll look at the windows, how they are done, and you know, the entrance. It's a building which again is not ostentatious, and I admire the Scandinavians for this lack of uh, nothing is you know, ostentatious, and this is a quality that they do have in general. I don't know if he designed the gardens, but I like the garden, so I included in the presentation. We'll end very soon. This presentation is just a short introduction in the work of an architect I knew nothing about, as I said just 2 days ago. But since he was born on March 4th, I thought of including him in the presentation today. Now, a spire of the Church of Our Savior, 1749, 1752. Again, it's a reticent Baroque. The spiral is what makes it Baroque. Otherwise, I don't know, maybe the golden sphere at the top a little bit, but it's still a restrained expression. I guess he designed only the spire, and you know, the building existed prior to his work here. The yellow palace, but I don't think I didn't find a picture of it, so I stop here. The yellow palace, I wish I looked for a yellow building by him besides what we already saw, but I couldn't find. So my imperfect and short presentation on this architect ends now.